Hey, what's up? What's going on? Today we're going to be talking about sketching a car on a post-it note. All right, let's get started with a post-it note. And before we continue, of course, if you love these topics and enjoy this content, be sure to subscribe here to the channel. So when I start off with a post-it note, the reason why I use post-it is just a very unintimidating way to get started, just to draw and sketch without having to commit yourself to a completed drawing. Sometimes when you start off with a fresh sheet of paper, then even that blank or that huge white sheet can be intimidating to fill up, and you don't really know what to do or where you're going to get started. So sometimes when you just use this 3x5 post-it note card or some of these larger post-it note cards, it's just easy to just pick up a pencil or pen and just start sketching on it without having to feel intimidated about it. So what I'm doing here is I've got, I think, like a 40% gray marker. It's a Prismacolor marker. I've got a set of grays, and I'm just outlining my construction lines at the beginning because I'm just sort of experimenting at this point, and it just allows me to lay down the construction lines, and then if I decide to go back and correct it, I can easily just go back and correct it and, correct any of the mistakes where I feel I've made, and then make those adjustments. And then once that's done, I come back with my ballpoint pen and I can do further adjustments, and I just start to tighten the sketch. So for instance, here, as I first laid down my first ellipses here on the front wheel and then looked at the rear wheel, I'm like, well, that rear wheel looks a little bit off with what I had previously on my gray marker. Let's kind of correct that and make sure that that issue is mitigated. And then after that, I just go through the sketch and just go through those construction lines, and then I'm able to determine which lines I want to keep, which lines do I want to emphasize more, or which lines do I want to change, or maybe change the theme of the car a little bit. That's the power of using those gray markers, because they're sort of just sitting out there in the background. I don't have to use them. They're just a guide at the beginning for which that you can use, and then you can come back in and later just tighten things up, which is what I'm doing here. The other reason I'm also using ballpoints is because the ballpoint pens gives you the opportunity to use thick and thin lines. It's such an awesome medium to use because you get varying amounts of line weights and thicknesses, or you can create your dark shading just by cross hatching and just going through it multiple times versus a gel pen. Now, I like gel pens too, by the way. Gel pens are terrific in its own right and for its own reasons. It gives a very comic book like feel to it. But the ballpoint pens are special, right? Because you can almost get a little bit of a pencil type effect with it, and it's a pen. And so the harder I press on it, the more ink I'm going to draw out of it, and then I can let off on the pressure and then fade those lines out a little bit. And then I can come back in and hit those and emphasize other lines, and you can just see it. So you can see it here right in the corner where I've got the windshield, and I'm darkening that up. I'm darkening the areas here around the headlamps. And then, the last thing I'm going to do here is add a little bit of value here to the side of the car for the reflection, and then we'll just finish off this sketch. And I think overall I spent maybe about 8 minutes on this sketch, so we're going to finish it off here in the front, and that's going to be just about it, and that'll cover our first post-it note sketch here. So I hope you enjoyed this, folks, and this looks good. If not, don't worry, I'll be sketching more. So we'll see you next time. Driven to Draw.